Here to set me straight about this is Donald Trump. Oh, I'm sorry. I confuse you with him because you're both tall and blonde and obnoxious sometimes and say rude things.
First in the hearts of the people.
How does the left lie about immigration?
Well, the original lie was the 1965 Immigration Act, pushed by Teddy Kennedy, supported by Bobby Kennedy and Dean Rusk and the Washington Post, and all of them swore up and down this immigration law will not change the basic demographics of America. The same countries that have traditionally populated America will continue to populate it. The demographics will not change. That turned out to be a massive, enormous lie, but now if anyone calls them on it, it's racist.
Clearly the demographics changed, but not that much.
Oh, yes, that much. From the beginning of America until 1970, the country was always about 80 to 90% white, 10 to 20% black. That's what America was.
And you want to keep it that way?
I think the American people should have been, exactly, that's what they say now. I think the American people should have been asked about it. But no, they were lied to, and now if you say, hey, you guys lied to us, the answer is you're racist. Really what is happening is America is being transformed into Latin America, particularly Mexico. More than a third of all legal immigrants are from Mexico. At least 60, 70% of illegal immigrants are from Mexico. Can you ask the American people, hey, would you guys prefer to be living in Mexico? Let's change our country. No country in world history has transformed itself into another country like this, and it was done without checking with the American people and, in fact, directly, specifically, knowingly lying to the American people.
How many of you agree with her on this? A few. Okay.
They're embarrassed. They don't want to be called racists. That's the trick. Let's just change the population and then accuse anyone who disagrees with what we've done to the country, call them racist. But I notice none of you immigrated to Mexico. So I'm thinking that a lot more of you agree with me than are claiming to right now for fear of being called racist. In fact, Mexican immigrants didn't stay there. They didn't immigrate to Honduras.
No, because we're a better
China didn't immigrate to Pakistan.
Country. They
wanted to come to the country that is or was America. If this continues, it is not going to be America.
Why isn't it America if there are more people from Latin America and from Asia?
Because these are very, very different cultures. Very different cultures. What determines the least corrupt countries is number of years of British rule and Protestantism. If you were to ask Anne, I'd say you want a country run by either WASPs or Ashkenazi Jews, but I haven't done the studies the Harvard guys have done. Americans overwhelmingly say they want less immigration, not more.
And what's the problem? Switzerland, Australia, they have twice as many immigrants per capita as we have.
Switzerland, you have to be there 3 generations before you can become a citizen. I think that's a fine idea.
27% of the country is made up of immigrants. It's 13% in the United States.
I'm confident they are not taking more immigrants from Nigeria than England as America is.
Since you bring up Nigeria...
I don't believe the stat you're about to give.
That Nigerians are more likely to work than native-born Americans? Nigerians who come here?
Yeah, no,
higher percentage?
Allegedly
also from
higher
Ghana?
Educated.
Twice.
No, I've gotten too many requests to contribute to the Nigerian prince or fill out a credit card to believe any of their statistics.
That's a scam. That's different from actual Nigerians coming here.
Where do you think this comes from? It's self-reports.
They are not twice as likely to get a college degree as Americans.
I don't believe it. I do not believe it.
I think she's a lot smarter than presidential candidate Lindsey Graham, but when it comes to immigration, I think she's wrong and Graham is right.
I think most are hardworking people that come from poor and corrupt countries to make a better life.
They are, and that's a good thing.
So what? Good for them. Very admirable. Is it good for America?
On balance, I would say yes.
Well, that's the question that should be asked, not that they're hardworking or admirable people.
Not that you have all the answers, but what do you think? Are they on balance good for America?
This is so not a question to be polling people on.
Hands up? Yes? No?
Okay, now you're annoying me even more than the polls do. All we ever hear is diversity is a strength, diversity is strength. We're a nation of immigrants. These are lies. You never get to hear the other side. Look, 70%, more than 70% of illegal immigrants are accepting government assistance.
That's not true.
It's absolutely true. So maybe before polling people, you should have the facts.
If they're not eligible for food stamps.
Yes, they are. They're eligible for all kinds of government assistance. You're completely wrong.
For some, their children get educated. They get hospital emergency room
And I think
treatment.
you're wrong about food stamps, and they get health care. They often get housing assistance.
They don't get welfare. They don't get Section 8 housing.
No, they don't get one form of welfare. People who are poor and coming from dysfunctional cultures, from corrupt cultures, who are used to being bossed around, are not going to be, working harder than Americans and less likely to accept government assistance. And they are driving down low-wage workers. Income inequality is through the roof. They aren't taking your job. They're probably not taking any of your jobs, but they are taking jobs of people at the bottom of the income ladder, and there are fellow Americans.
Doing jobs Americans often don't want to do.
They don't want to do them free. They don't want to do them for $3 an hour.
Or it's illegal to do it for $3.
No, I want to bring in more people to compete with you for your job. No, but that's not what oh, no, that's not what happens. That's not our immigration policy. So you can be macho and say that, but that's not what's happening.
Fair criticism, but when you talk about the contribution, this is from the CBO. More immigrants would lower the deficit. And
that's nonsense.
They pay into the Social Security system, but they often don't take it out, especially if they're illegal.
Yes.
The National Research Council, the typical immigrant imposes a net fiscal cost of $3,000. That's what you're talking about. But the descendants of the immigrant have a positive contribution of $83,000.
No. This is absolutely ludicrous.
The National Research Council, they're smarter than you.
No, they aren't. They're liars. They're bigger liars.
But what about all the stuff we gain? I mean, Google, IKEA, YouTube, bicycles, blow dryers, basketball, football, shopping malls.
We used to get the creme de la creme. That isn't our immigration policy anymore. Now it's bring in cheap labor to drive down the poorest Americans' wages and block vote for the Democrats, which is working like a charm for both those groups. And the other ones you mentioned, these are the same groups that are mentioned over and over again. Okay, we got one from Russia, a few from Germany, and a few from Britain. If that's what we want, then let's get that. Let's not be bringing in 1 million immigrants from Mexico every year. Where is the Mexican Google?
How about the computer programmer from India?
Yeah, that turns out to be another scam, this H-1B visa. They aren't inventing some great companies. They aren't starting Netscape. What they're doing is standard computer programming work. The reason they are desirable...
That's useful. That's great.
No, what is useful is to the employer, they can't switch jobs. They are indentured servants, something this country got rid of 100 years ago.
I think we should let more people in legally, and there'd be less sneaking in.
Well, but it depends who you're letting in.
People who want to work.
No. You can't play both ways here.
Already the rules are stacked.
When we're talking about how fabulous the immigrants are, suddenly I hear about Google and PayPal. But now when we're talking about admitting them, you want the guy to do your landscaping. Fine. Admit the ones who are going to
come in. You're saying things that Americans just don't say in polite company.
Well, yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Because the reason Americans are sensitive and your audience are such scaredy cats of being called racist, sorry, but you are you? The reason we are sensitive to the race issue is because of how black Americans were treated. It's because of the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow, both by Democrats, I might add. Someone who has never set foot in this country, we don't owe anything to. Black Americans have a very specific history and rights and privileges in this country because of what they have been through. They can complain about racism. If you're not an American black, then just shut up.
I say we have a good life here, and we can bring more people in from everywhere.
As long as they compete with you. But they're not.
Thank you, Ann Coulter. If you'd like to keep this conversation going, please go to Facebook or Twitter. Use that hashtag #LiarLiar. Let us know what you think. Up next, how the woman who's most likely to become our next president lies all the time and gets away with it. But next, more big government lies about government spending.
Lindsey Graham, who won the 2016 Republican nomination, as you know, and as a result of that has a right to impose his immigration views on the country. How did that work?
First, I want to say, boy, Donald Trump is right. These dreamers are fabulous. They're great. They're fantastic. I can't wait for them to be our fellow citizens. And yeah, I mean, I think everybody's wondering, where did Lindsey Graham come from? Who nominated him to be negotiating this? He ran for president. He got literally 0 votes, was the first and most vicious in attacking Donald Trump, the candidate. So how is it that he's the one in this? Why does he have a seat at the table at all on immigration negotiations, much less, he's the leader of what the Republicans stand for? And, as I say in my column, it does make any normal observer think the fix is in. Why are other Republican senators allowing this? If it had been back during the Iraq War, Republicans wouldn't have allowed anti-war Republican Chuck Hagel to go and say, oh, he represents our views on the war. We're going to send him in. No, they'd say, no, not him. Don't talk to him. Why is the media talking to him? Why is the president talking to him? He doesn't represent us. But the donors want the cheap labor. I mean, the one thing, Tucker, that's going to be fun if we lose this is watching all of these short-sighted, idiotic businessmen try to do business in a country run by the likes of Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, that will be amusing, but sad for the rest of us. So, but there's a deeper question about democracy here. So if the public has been clear in poll after poll about what it wants and what it doesn't want on the question of immigration, and it went to the trouble of electing Donald Trump against all odds and all predictions, just to express that view, and it still can't get what it demonstrably wants in immigration, is it possible for the public to have a say in this?
No, it's amazing. I mean, it is beyond what you just described. I was looking through Nexus transcripts today. The fact that Donald Trump is president, it was utterly implausible. It's like a Hollywood movie. And this isn't the first time. I mean, you keep hearing these phony polls being cited by the media showing that Americans love Dreamers. They love them, just like that one you interviewed. Who couldn't love her? They love them. But every time they have an actual ballot, every time for 20 years now, they will vote against bail for illegals, against government services for illegals. They'll vote for Donald Trump. They'll vote for English as the national language when they're this Harvard poll that just came out shows more Americans would like zero immigration than our current immigration policy. But the way they pull off these phony polls is by, I mean, I didn't need to read Saul Alinsky to know that this is not a good way to take a poll. They personalize it. They say, oh, do you want to deport Juanita the maid? They make it about a specific person. No, I want questions like, do you want more or less immigration? Do you think people who break the law should be able to become citizens and start collecting welfare right away? Do you think we should be dumping millions of low-wage workers on the country, which is going to come back? I mean, Trump may think he is a genius, and in some ways he is. He has an uncanny sense for what are popular issues. That's why he won. He may be able to roll over the never-Trumpers, but if he continues down this line, former Trumpers is going to be a much more difficult category for him.
You just think in a democracy, you can't ignore what people want forever, or else you're going to get a pretty bad backlash, I think. And thank you for coming on. I appreciate that.